For millions of Americans growing up in the golden age of television, Johnny Crawford was the boy who seemed to have it all. By the mere age of 13, he was an Emmy-nominated television icon, beloved for his raw, emotional vulnerability. Before he was even old enough to vote, he was a charting pop recording artist and one of the most instantly recognizable young faces in America. His future appeared entirely limitless. But when the blinding spotlight of childhood fame faded, Crawford was thrust into a brutal, decades-long cycle of career rejection, predatory financial structures, and deep personal heartbreak. To make matters worse, a devastating health battle slowly stole the very intellect and charisma that had made him a star. As his condition worsened, a mountain of medical debt left his family facing a financial desperation that a legend of his stature should never have endured. The final days and death of Johnny Crawford are uniquely heart-wrenching, revealing a tragic reality behind the scenes that will ensure you never look at the Rifleman the same way again. Welcome to Royal Time of Hollywood. The meteoric rise of a Johnny Crawford. John Ernest Crawford was born on March 26, 1946, in Los Angeles, California, into a family deeply steeped in the arts. His mother was an accomplished pianist, and his maternal grandfather, Alfred Megerlin, had served as the prestigious first concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic. Performance was in Johnny's DNA long before he ever stepped onto a studio lot. At just 9 years old, Johnny secured a highly coveted spot as one of the original 24 Mouseketeers on the debut season of Disney's The Mickey Mouse Club. It was a dream beginning, but the triumph was abruptly cut short. At the end of the first season, he was let go because choreographers felt he couldn't master the complex dance steps quickly enough. Though the rejection stung deeply, Johnny pushed forward, securing minor guest spots on anthology programs to help his family pay the bills. Then came 1958. Out of hundreds of child actors competing for a single part, Johnny's remarkably expressive face and natural emotional depth won him the defining role of Mark McCain on the ABC Western series The Rifleman. The show anchored itself on the powerful relationship between a widowed homesteader, Lucas McCain, played by the towering Chuck Connors, and his young son. The on-screen chemistry was immediate and real. In 1959, at just 13 years old, Johnny achieved a historic career pinnacle by earning a Primetime Emmy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor in a Dramatic Series, standing shoulder to shoulder with adult industry veterans. To truly embody his Western persona, Johnny underwent rigorous training from Hollywood wranglers, becoming a highly skilled competitive trick roper. Simultaneously, he launched a wildly successful pop music career with Delphi Records, scoring several top 40 hits on the Billboard Hot 100, including his signature 1962 track, Cindy's Birthday, which peaked at number 8. The brutal realities of aging out. In 1963, the exact year The Rifleman ceased production, the 17-year-old Crawford collided with a harsh industry barrier. He had physically outgrown the wide-eyed, endearing child aesthetic that made him famous. Mainstream casting directors flatly refused to see him as a mature romantic lead, pigeonholing him strictly as the little boy from the Western. Compounding this professional rejection was a staggering financial betrayal. Because The Rifleman was produced during an era of predatory network contracts, Crawford's agreements guaranteed him absolutely zero residual payments for future reruns. As the show entered decades of highly lucrative global syndication, generation after generation watched him perform, yet Crawford did not receive a single dime of those back-end profits. Starved for meaningful work, his adult career deteriorated into fleeting, one-off episodic guest spots on shows like Little House on the Prairie and Murder, She Wrote. He was forced to rely heavily on regional nostalgia conventions just to maintain a shred of professional income, signing autographs for fans who remembered a boy from a bygone era. His personal life echoed this pattern of profound displacement. During his peak fame at Hollywood High School, he fell deeply in love with a student named Charlotte McKenna. However, the grueling, round-the-clock schedules of his music recordings and studio demands tore them apart. They underwent a painful breakup, losing touch entirely for 25 years. Though they miraculously reconnected in 1990 and married in 1995, rumors of a long, painful physical separation plagued his later years. In 1990, driven by a deep passion for musical preservation, he founded the Johnny Crawford Dance Orchestra, a big band jazz group dedicated to authentic 1920s swing arrangements. Lacking corporate backing, Crawford poured vast amounts of his own dwindling personal savings into the project, self-funding the salaries of up to 16 prof. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to check out the other stories and shocking updates on our channel. We've covered many incredible celebrity journeys, tragic endings, and untold Hollywood secrets that you don't want to miss. Binge-watch our previous videos to discover more surprising facts, emotional stories, and where your favorite stars are today. Your support helps us bring you more powerful content like this,
him an Emmy
so don't
nomination
forget
at
to
13.
explore, watch more, and stay tuned for the next video. A cruel and silent diagnosis. By the mid-2010s, musicians within his orchestra began noticing alarming changes. A man who once possessed an encyclopedic memory for complex 1920s musical charts began forgetting lyrics on stage and staring blankly at the microphone. In 2019, his legacy team made a devastating public announcement. Johnny Crawford had been formally diagnosed with severe, irreversible Alzheimer's disease. The neurodegenerative progression was aggressively swift. The man who had spent his life delivering nuanced performances suffered a near-total loss of speech, becoming entirely unable to construct sentences. This cognitive decline forced him into absolute isolation from the public eye. When his profound disorientation turned into a safety risk, marked by instances of wandering away from his home, his family made the agonizing decision to permanently place him into a high-security memory care facility in Los Angeles. Complete financial obliteration. According to these accounts, his financial situation became increasingly difficult in his later years. Despite spending decades in the entertainment industry, his net worth was reportedly around $500,000, a sum quickly consumed by the extraordinary costs of specialized memory care treatment. The expenses mounted so rapidly that much of what he had earned throughout his career was exhausted within a relatively short period. What made the situation even more troubling was the reported lack of institutional support. Critics pointed out that he had no meaningful pension, healthcare assistance, or backing from the major studios that had once benefited from his popularity and work. To many observers, it seemed as though the industry that had profited from his image and performances had largely forgotten him during one of the most vulnerable periods of his life. As his care needs increased, help came not from Hollywood but from friends and supporters. A campaign known as A Minor Consideration, led by longtime friend Paul Peterson of The Donna Reed Show, launched a public GoFundMe effort to help cover ongoing monthly care expenses. The fundraiser drew attention to the financial challenges faced by many former child actors and entertainers who lack long-term support systems. Additional assistance arrived through emergency fundraising events organized by historical preservationists associated with the Joel and Frances McRae Ranch. Benefit gatherings and silent auctions were held to raise money for his medical care, highlighting the extent to which community members and admirers had to step in to help secure the resources needed for his treatment and well-being. The heart-wrenching final days. When the global pandemic struck, Crawford found himself completely trapped inside his memory care facility under draconian quarantine rules. He was cut off from any direct, physical comforting touch from his visitors. His devoted wife, Charlotte, could not hold his hand without excessive precautions, leaving him profoundly isolated in a world he could no longer cognitively comprehend. Despite the facility's strict safety measures, Crawford contracted the virus. Though his body miraculously cleared the primary infection, it permanently ravaged his frail respiratory system. In his severely weakened state, he immediately contracted a secondary case of aggressive pneumonia. As his organs began to fail, he was moved one final time to a smaller, specialized care home in Los Angeles, chosen because it sat as close as possible to Charlotte's residence. On Thursday, April 29, 2021, Johnny Crawford took his final breath at the age of 75. Due to the strict quarantine mandates enforced at the time, his extended family was barred from entering the room, but his beloved Charlotte held his hand continuously until the very end. Following his passing, Crawford was cremated, and his ashes were interred with a simple, unassuming stone marker at Sunset Hills Memorial Park in Apple Valley, California. The industry that had profited from him offered nothing in his final years, leaving his legacy to be carried entirely by the fans who loved him. Though the boy from the Rifleman is gone, his gentle sparkle lives on forever in the timeless black and white images of television history. If you want to keep the memory of legends like Johnny Crawford alive, please remember to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, subscribe to Royal Time of Hollywood, and turn on that bell notification.